what is going on, you guys? Welcome to Envision Podcasting, episode 4. I guess we could do the whole ta-da thing, right?
Yeah,
Because we did that the last episode,
that's
and
right.
and Sean was like, "This is the episode. This is what you have to say at the beginning." So, ta-da!
Ta-da.
We are here, and I am here with a master of pencil and paper, one of the most creative drawers that I've ever seen, like on Instagram and in person. Very happy to meet him. This is my first time seeing him, Mr. Michael Kelly. How we doing, my man?
I'm doing awesome. How are you, man?
Good.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be going a little old fashioned here, right? Because a lot of the people that are into art nowadays are into like digital art
Yeah,
and
that's right.
everything. But you are like again on paper all the time, like drawing stuff like anime and stuff like that. So I guess I'm gonna give you the floor. Talk about what you do. Talk about like what you draw, stuff like that, and we'll go from there, my man.
Yeah, man. All right. Before I get into it, I won't be able to see anyone coming in live, so I apologize for that.
Right. Oh yeah, I should make that clear. This is also being live streamed on Michael's phone right behind the camera.
Unfortunately, you can't see it.
What's
but
up,
right
you
there.
guys? What's up, you guys, and what's up, you guys?
What's going on, everyone?
Right. People who are watching the video are gonna be so confused.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Why are they pointing at that wall in the back?
It's like, what the heck? But yeah, basically, my name is Michael, and I do mainly ink artwork and penciling, color artwork too. Traditionally, I've been doing artwork for about 4.5 years, and I'm just keep exploring. Aside from that, I also am in the trading card world. I sell cards, mostly Pokemon. And one of my biggest goals that I hope to do is to inspire people, bring the collecting and the art world together, and just be able to make a difference in this world one step at a time.
Right, absolutely, and you have an excellent like following from both, I would imagine. Which one did you get into first?
Actually, artwork.
Okay, so artwork. It started off with artwork, and then
Yes.
you moved into card collecting.
Yes.
Okay, so the majority of your artwork, I have noticed, as sick as it is primarily anime based, right? What kind of like when did you start getting into animes? Have you been watching animes like from birth? Like,
I mean, I wish I could say that. However, mostly came like after I graduated from high school and such.
Okay.
I mean, it was something I've known about like the whole time. Like, I mean, I've seen Pokemon. Some people argue that Pokemon's not anime, but I guess that's besides the point.
Right.
Aside from that, you know.
Why do people argue that? Why would people argue that?
I guess more kind of like I don't know the exact reason, but I think part of it is because of like it's has part of a TCG involved in it. Like they say about like Beyblade or like Digimon or Bakugan, you know, those types of animes too. But I mean, you know, it's whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, we all enjoy it, so I think that's the thing we take away from the most.
Right. Hashtag save Pokemon. Pokemon's an anime. Like
that's right.
Pokemon's probably actually one of the first things I thought of as soon as we started talking about anime, because I was telling you about how I'm not like I'm not a big anime guy in the sense of I don't know a lot about it. It's such a huge world. Like Dragon Ball Z, it's like where would you start? You know what I mean? Like how many seasons are there? Do they even have seasons, or is it just like episodes all year round? Like
I mean, like it's multiple different shows throughout. Like there's been Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Kai, Dragon Ball GT, Dragon Ball Super. There's Super Dragon Ball Heroes now. I don't know if I'm missing one.
Have you watched every single one?
I have not actually, but I've seen like mostly bits and pieces of it, so I know some about it. But I've just seen like a lot of different stuff throughout. But the one thing most is, you know, I just appreciate the artworks and I appreciate the nostalgia about it. That and just the motivation that you get from it. Just watching Dragon Ball, mostly from like Goku and Vegeta, just giving him motivation. It's like, okay, their speaking is so powerful. I want to do 100 push-ups right now because it's just like they're screaming at me. Let's go. We gotta do that, you know.
They're like, get up, Michael, get off your couch, come on. No, but so for your drawing and your artwork, like I said, you are really, really good at it.
I appreciate it.
You had said to me, because I had asked you beforehand when we were on our way here, whether or not you got into drawing during high school, but you actually said you started after high school. Talk about that.
Well, it's actually like more in the midst of high school.
Okay.
So around like sophomore year, like summer 2019.
Okay.
Part of that, around that time right there.
Okay. Did you like decide that you wanted to get serious about it, or were you just starting to sketch and play around?
I mean, part of it at that time, like when I started, it was mostly like I wasn't like serious about it because I mean, it really was just picked it up, just trying it to have fun.
Right.
However, it kind of became more of an escape from reality to be able to be like, okay, this is really enjoyable. And I mean, this is something that you can do and just learn all the time, even if, not that great at the start, at least being able to have fun, being able to use something that can get you away from, not causing trouble in your life. That, and I mean, in the midst of all that too, being able to just create really good things and being able to get better throughout time, I think those are really just two great aspects about it.
Right. Absolutely, man. And like for you, I like how you said it was more of like an escape. Not like an escape from reality, but like an escape from starting problems, right? Because a lot of people, I feel like, need that in their life, whether they are troublemakers or they just naturally find trouble. I mean, we could play semantics, a lot of people are like, oh, well, trouble just knocks on my door. And it's like, I don't know. Like some people are more antagonistic than others. They just like to press buttons. But I think drawing is a great outlet for that. You know what I mean? In the same sense of writing, it's like you can just have it to like kind of draw out the way you feel almost, or draw out your life experiences. Do you find yourself doing stuff like that, like relating to it that deeply, or is it just kind of like what you see is what you draw?
I mean, part of it I can say is a little bit of like life experience because I've been able to draw a lot of things like since I've drawn a lot of Pokemon. That part of it is a life experience because it's eventually gotten me into the trading card world. I think part of that came from experience, but also like before I got into drawing specifically like Japanese related stuff and anime, I've done a lot of comics. So I've studied a lot of comics. Like I've studied Batman, Superman. I've studied like Thor. All those kinds of heroes and villains, etc.
Right.
And that was really able to help me a lot more. So I could be able not only to appreciate the artworks, but be able to understand the craft better and see how the greats do it, and being able to take something away from that, but also being able to not only take away from it, but also maybe make something a little bit original out of it, so I can do something original too.
Right. For beforehand, you said that you were drawing comics before you got into anime.
Yes, that's correct.
Like, would you draw like what you saw, or would you see what you like a comic book and then draw your own version of it, so to speak?
Okay, so basically, a lot of it, like I did comic covers, like I did it from reference.
Okay.
At the time, I don't do reference artwork anymore. However, unless it's like a homage piece.
Okay.
However,
what's a homage piece?
Basically, like something like appreciation for someone. Like maybe like I'll draw like the same cover or something.
Right.
Like I've done that before.
Right. Just, homage, right?
Yeah.
Homage?
Did I say it wrong?
No, I don't know. I don't know. It's like caramel and caramel, I think.
You know I get that
it's
too.
It's like either or. When you said homage, I thought that was a specific type of art, but you mean like something that like you resonate with, so to speak. Okay. All right. That's awesome.
Yeah, honestly, it's really cool too.
That's cool. So that kind of brought you into the trading card world, you said?
Yes, but it was a little bit after I was doing the comic related stuff.
Okay.
I was doing the comic related stuff for a long, long time.
Right.
A lot of that included like Dragon Ball and Pokemon too,
right.
aside from like comics. But a lot of that was really able to help me re-explore the trading card world because I collected when I was younger.
Okay.
It was just part of it, like going to the Target. Actually, the Target right over here.
Right.
Literally,
really?
It's like it's so cool because I remember like going there and like, Ma, can we get these like black and white packs? And it's like, at the time they were like, I don't know, maybe $4 or something.
Right.
Someone correct me if I'm wrong on that. But now it's like it went from $4 to maybe like $100 or something. Now it's absolutely crazy. The blisters. It's like
really.
Yeah, and I mean that's just part of it. Seeing it to being able to really jump like from that. I mean that's throughout like the past decade and such. But I mean it's really cool to see that. A lot of that came from like opening stuff. Like as a kid, not everyone understands necessarily the value and stuff.
Right.
And I think that's a good thing, because it helps you to kind of appreciate the artwork more rather than going after the value.
Right.
And it's not necessarily that's a bad thing to go after the value, but I think that when you're at a young age, it's better to appreciate the artworks a lot more in that sense.
Right. And the trading card world that you said, like for me, I know nothing about the trading card world. So like when you say that something's valued at $4 and it goes up to like $100, how does that happen? Like in such a short amount of time as well. Like what is value based on in like the trading card world, so to speak?
In a sense, it's a little bit of over time since, like the black and white era, that's like a decade ago, and those have been out of print for so many years now.
Right.
Part of it is kind of like aged. You can even look at it as a stock a little bit, and over time it goes up.
Right.
But part of that is, the supply becomes a little less, even though it's been printed, to no end and such.
Right.
Since like even modern Pokemon, that time has been printed so
Right.
much. A little bit of that too has been, it's gone out a little bit because a lot of people have ripped and such and open packs and
Right.
graded the cards, etc.
Right.
And a lot of that too is because people want to collect it more. And with the amount of sellers in the Pokemon space, people wanting it too, but also I guess part of it is just a lot of demand for it because a lot of people, like I mentioned, collect. So people might collect boxes. Some people might collect blister
Right.
packs, usually like booster boxes, collection boxes, the elite trainer boxes, maybe just even the single card, maybe a loose booster pack, something
Right.
like that.
Right.
I think, and when people look at it, it's like I want to collect from all different ages of Pokemon, which takes a lot of money.
Right. Right.
But
What is like all different ages of Pokemon? Like how much would that be realistically? Could you even put a number on that?
I mean, it's so tough to say because when you put it into slabs like graded card, slab is like a slang because when you put the plastic together, it's called slabbing.
Oh,
The
okay.
graded card.
Okay.
Yeah. But from slabs, from sealed, to the cards itself, it's so hard to say because when you get master sets is like you have every single card from that set,
Right.
one to the end.
Okay.
And it's different for every set because of the patent, because sometimes the market will fluctuate.
Right.
And then when the conditions are different too, it's very hard to say because one specific collector, some people like near mint cards, like very clean copies.
Right.
Some people may want like really, really dirty copies or like roughed up copies on the back, but like still nice in the front,
Right.
just to be able to, to save money, which is of course too. Everyone's a different collector,
Right.
and I respect all collectors regardless of like what they collect.
Right.
But honestly, it would take thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars really if you're going after that. But it's really mostly dependent on what type of collector you are because, like I mentioned, every type of collector is slightly different.
Right. You have some thrifty collectors apparently. You
Yes.
know what I mean? They'll take like a card where the back is like completely slashed, but the front is like beautiful, and they're like, "I'll take it, I'll grab it," because like the other card where the back is completely clean, the front is completely clean, is like maybe like a couple grand more if I'm not mistaken, or something along those lines. The only way I'm relating it because, like I said, trading card world completely new to me. The only thing I'm thinking about with that is like sports cards. You know what I mean? Like I understand generally how baseball cards are traded, especially baseball cards, just from media, television, and in general. Now, one question I have for you, as far as the trading card world goes, are there like conventions for like the trading card world as well?
Yes.
Okay. Are they combined with the artwork, like of anime, or is it completely separate?
Sometimes it depends on the convention. Like sometimes there's like very strictly card shows that can be like Pokemon, it can be sports and One Piece. Just combine all different types of cards.
Right.
There is those ones very specific, but there's also ones where they'll have like guest celebrities, like voice actors. Maybe they'll have like actors sometimes.
Right.
Artists combined too, but usually a lot of it has became more opportunity filled and a lot more open to expanding rather than just like okay, one's like only sports cards, one's like only Pokemon cards instead of like just one, etc.
Right.
It's like we're gonna have all of it here, and most of the conventions are very open to having just different collectors come, comic sellers. I mean, like card sellers, etc. The list really goes on.
Right.
But in the past couple of decades, it's really opened up a lot more to being able to have different types of people come to these events to be able to see like, okay, this one person might be a card collector, but this person is a comic collector. I mean, these people can meet, talk about collecting for days, and it's like, just being able to network, have a great time, etc., things like that.
Right. For the conventions, how big do they get? Like, how many people? Like, what's the biggest one you've been to?
Honestly, it's dependent on what convention it is. So the biggest one I went to is Terrificon. That's at Mohegan Sun.
Okay.
Yeah, Mohegan Sun's absolutely beautiful.
Right.
That place is gorgeous.
It's a cool place. Yeah.
And that event I went to, it was like they had I think like 100 comic artists or something.
Really?
DC, Marvel, etc. They had like local artists. They also had a bunch of comic sellers. Like it was crazy. They had a couple card collectors too, Funko Pop sellers.
Really?
They had like maybe I think like 30 voice actors and actors.
Really?
And they even had some like wrestlers from WWE there.
Oh, that's
which is
sick.
really cool too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Were you a WWE fan when you were growing up?
Yes.
Me and you both.
Very big.
Really?
Very big into that time, especially mostly it was around like like 2010 to like 2020.
Yeah.
That was most of my time that I've studied a lot and enjoyed. So that was like my time, especially a lot for it.
Right, absolutely. I agree with you. Like, I'm right there with you. 2010s to 2020, being a WWE fan, that's cool because you don't meet a lot of them now, or a lot of them for some reason are like too ashamed to admit that when they were a child they imagined. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I get it.
Like it was cool to see these guys. Like I know it's scripted. Well, 1st off, they say like people talk about how professional wrestling is scripted, but those guys do go through a lot of physical they have a lot of physical problems like in the long run. You know what I mean? They're going through tables, they're like hitting the ring and everything like that. They have a lot of injuries, nagging injuries throughout their 30s and 40s. It is a pretty dangerous, almost a sport. I don't want to say it's not a sport, but it's like it's the same sense of like how like they have an actor to like I'm trying to
Like a
think.
stunt double?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So they have like a stunt double. Like it's not like it's professional. It's just not competitive. You know what I mean? Everything is it's a show. But that show, man, a lot of wrestlers end up having injuries. Like they end up getting surgeries and stuff like that. I always loved it. I always loved seeing like one of the last things I saw was Randy Orton like RKO a woman in 2020 or 2019. I'm like, that's funny. Like that's crazy.
I mean, I don't exactly remember what that is, but I mean that is kind of funny.
Randy Orton's main primary finisher. You remember that?
The RKO.
Yeah.
And I found out the acronym was his name, Randall Keith Orton, which is really cool too.
Really?
It kind of reminded me of what was it? A little bit older wrestling, but when Mae Young got thrown through a table by Bubba Ray Dudley. It was so funny. And then they checked and it's like, no, I'm okay.
Right.
It's like, I mean, but that lady was just so resilient.
Right. I think she was like 82, like at that time as well. She was thrown through a table.
And I mean, she was brilliant. She was so funny in every aspect.
What would you do if you're Bubba Ray and you're asked to pull that off? Like as a wrestler.
Oh,
yeah, by the way, you're gonna throw this 85-year-old woman into like off stage or something like that.
I feel like his first reaction probably like, you're kidding me. I'm
not
doing this. It's like, what the heck?
Right.
There's no way in the world I'm doing this, man.
Right.
But I mean, they probably like bribed him or something a little bit.
Right.
Since
extra 10,000 if you make it through.
Yeah, literally. Like I'd be terrified to do that too, because it's like, that's someone who's very old, and it's like that could probably kill someone.
Right.
And I mean, I don't know how she survived it, but it was just incredible.
Right. And it's not going to help her family at the funeral if you're like, well, she asked. You know what I mean? She asked me to do it. It's like she's gone, So, but luckily they are careful and coordinated with everything like that. So that's just interesting to meet another person, especially early on in childhood, who was a fan of WWE. Because when I was younger, everyone loved it, and then I think that like as we got older, obviously a lot of people kind of fell out with it. I think AEW is cool, but that's a different topic for a different time. Basically, back to what we were saying as far as expansion. That was another thing you said that was interesting. How these two worlds kind of combine. We talked about how this podcast was a good platform for that, and it's an excellent. That's the best word I could use for what me and you both have in the sense of mindset is expansion. And I like that about you. I like how you took what you knew from one world and you kind of entered the other one, and now they bleed into each other. When you go to these events, do you end up like breaking the bank to get some cards, or do you just like
not typically. I don't usually try to collect because like the majority of stuff that I have, I'm trying to use it to put towards my future.
Okay.
And I'm not like the way that like for my collection, the way for my collection works a little different. Is like even if I have it for 1 or 2 days, I'm okay with that.
Right.
Like I can just say, okay, I own this for a while. Now I'm okay with it because I at least know in my lifetime I've had this, which is so cool.
Right.
And I try not to get too attached to things. It's like, if you're attached to it, you're gonna have it for your PC. And then what's for your PC, you're not gonna want to sell it.
What's a PC?
Personal collection.
Okay.
It's the acronym.
Okay.
Not like computer.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You're just taking these cards and you're just slipping them into the side of the computer.
Yeah, it's like the thing in the CD in the computer where you put it through, like you put the graded card through.
Right.
It's like, yeah, that's for my PC.
And it just pops up and it's like, all right, this is valued at X, Y, and Z. That's interesting. I like I said, I don't know a lot about the trading card world, but I would like to go. to like a convention just to meet these people. You said there are voice actors and actors there too.
Yes.
Any particular ones like name dropping? Like I know that like, I again I'm not a big like anime person or voice actor person. Well, actors yes, but voice
Mm-hmm.
actors not really. I know like Kevin Conroy, like Mark Hamill. I know
Yes,
those
rest
like
in peace, Kevin Conroy.
what?
Rest in peace.
Yeah, he passed away how long ago? It was like
It
3 or
was
4
like
years ago, right?
3 years ago, something.
Yeah.
It may have been like 2 years. I'm not exactly sure. I
Right.
remember hearing the news about it, and it was, it was unfortunate, but it was all right because he left such a good legacy in this world.
Absolutely. Yeah. Did you ever watch Batman the animated series?
I've seen a little bit of it. I haven't seen it all, but I thought the style was really, really cool,
Right.
and I like just the cartoony vibe of it.
Right. I liked it too. I thought that like, and it was funny, we were talking about anime as well earlier. You know, having that like, I told you that the only animes I really kept up with was Family Guy, but it was also Batman the animated series. Batman the animated series was so sick, and I liked. It was funny because the Riddler in that animated series was like so cool and menacing, and like he was always 10 steps ahead. And then fast forward 3 years, they have Jim Carrey on screen as the Riddler, who's practically the Joker in green, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he's just like dancing around Batman's cave, throwing bombs everywhere. It's like, what's happening? Like
Yeah.
do you find that a lot? Like, where in characters, like whether it be in anime or in voice acting, do you find like a lot of like characters are kind of like, I guess, pulled or plagiarized in a sense, like just kind of copies and remade?
I mean, a little bit. I think honestly, yes and no. I mean, in the part of yes, that I think everything honestly roots down from one thing, regardless of how far it goes into the future,
Right.
and regardless of how far we're going to expand, as like new ideas.
Right.
But I think still so much stuff has like so much originality, um, and I think the originality factor of it like is really cool too. But I still think everything stems from at least something of inspiration,
Right.
no matter how far it passes down.
Right. Do you try with your artwork to not make it the same, like in the sense of like, even though it does start off with an idea, do you try to be as far out from that idea as possible so people don't like correlate it with that? You know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
I don't want my end product to look exactly like, you know what I mean, this idea, and people are like, oh, we just copied it. Like, what do you think about that?
Okay, and to answer the question, I stopped doing like reference artwork with the exception of like homage pieces, like I was saying before. And I stopped doing that because I mean, it's okay, if you're having fun, it's fine. But I really wanted to start getting more serious about it because, I mean, like being able to reference something, I think limits a more of the creativity a little bit. Like, for example, like if you see Batman doing a pose like this or something, right?
Right.
I mean, it's cool, right? It's fun to draw, but I think that especially when you're starting out, like when you start out as an artist, you're not necessarily supposed to be doing all the stuff like doing the stuff you want to. You're supposed to be doing stuff like the basics, like for example, learning the proportions, learning lines, learning shadows, perspective,
Right.
learning how to format a piece,
Right.
rendering, etc. I think, and once you start to get a little bit more advanced, you can start doing stuff. But I think reference is fine if you're having fun, then great. But I think being able to do something original brings way more creativity in it because if you see like for example, if you see like Thor holding a hammer like this but lightning,
Right.
it's cool to draw. Don't get me wrong, right? It's cool. I mean, it's great. The artwork is exceptional,
Right.
and it's been throughout that time. However, I think that if you want to say like I want to do something crazier than this,
Right.
but you're not necessarily yet ready to do something like that because um, you haven't practiced all of that. It's kind of like it may look great you're doing like posing and stuff, but in the long run, it might catch you in the end
Right.
at one point or another.
Right. For you, so you said you have to learn when you start off drawing, and this for anyone listening as well. If you are thinking about getting into drawing or something that is like a hobby that you want to turn into something that's more like, creative and advanced, the basics, you said shadows,
Mhm.
perspective. What was the other? What were the others?
There was anatomy I didn't mention. There's like proportions.
Okay.
Did I say perspective already? I think I said that.
Yeah.
There's rendering. There's like lines.
What's proportions?
Like basically proportion meaning like the appropriate size to an object. Like for example, if I have like okay, for example, like those sign here, like hustle,
Right.
it's very proportionate wall like there, but if it was too small, it'd be less proportionate.
Right.
Basically, the proportion mean the size to the appropriate figure and object that it's surrounded by.
Right. So like even like with this microphone, so to speak, like this microphone is big, but if the lines were like bigger, like outline, do you think it would stick out more? Like the microphone would stick out more, or do you think that the line is like good around proportionately?
I
You know?
think. Oh, sorry. I think it looks good. I think the proportions are appropriate.
Okay, that's what I was.
Um,
No, that's what I was wondering. Is like because if you were to draw something like this,
mhm.
like would the idea be for the centerpiece to stand out, or would it be for like everything to kind of even it? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what do you think about that? Like when you're drawing yourself.
Yeah, so another thing I think of like when I'm drawing is to have emphasis. Emphasis basically meaning like what you want to stand out the most when you're
Right.
drawing. So like for example, if I'm doing like someone punching it, you want maybe the fist to stand out, or maybe the anger having someone stand out, something like that.
Right.
And the emphasis, like right here is like the microphone, which is great because it also symbolizes like this is a podcast. We speak on here, we talk on here,
Right.
we laugh on here, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
It's really cool too.
Right.
Yeah, and I think emphasis is really important to basically just being able to understand how to make things stick out more and how to make things look more fun, look more realistic, and look cooler.
Right. For you too, like you were talking about the emphasis in the artwork. It seems like a lot of the artwork that you do, whether it is based on anime or you're just your own kind of freelancing,
Mhm.
it's a lot of like cool like fight scenes.
Yes.
And like, is there a specific reason for that, or is it just something you just enjoy drawing?
For fight scenes, I really like doing fight scenes or maybe like single character, like just action poses. I really like action poses because I want to make my artwork fun.
Right.
I want to make my artwork energetic. I want to make life to it. I want someone to say like, "Holy crap, that is cool!" Like
Right.
someone have a reaction like that.
Right.
I want just people to really look at it and feel inspired by it and say, "I want to make that because that is just so darn cool."
Right.
And I think really having the energy when you bring energy into a piece.
Right.
I mean, the majority of the time when you're making an artwork piece, you can tell when someone is putting effort and when someone's not putting effort into the piece. You're able to tell, like, not only just necessarily with artwork, but even with like a job in general, maybe even like even a podcast here. I love the effort here. It's absolutely amazing.
Right.
Just,
I appreciate that. Thank
of
you.
course.
No, that was you were very nice from the get go as far as the compliments go. It's one of those things too where I can only, I would prefer if you drew this. You know what I mean? Like if I met you earlier, I would have been like, please, Michael, help me because like I say, your creative leisure and what you've been able to do even on your Instagram. Like I post it all the time, but it's like the videos you put together, it shows where you start, the basics, like you said before, and it shows how you develop the actual piece. Speaking of basics, for you, what was the hardest for you to kind of get, or what is still the hardest, maybe?
Okay, so there's a lot to it, but most artists say, and even myself too, is hands. Hands are very, very tough to draw because like when you know it like that, it's just very tough. There's a lot to it. There's like 5 fingers you gotta draw, and you gotta make it appropriate size and everything.
Right.
That mostly, but also a little bit of the dynamics because like dynamics meaning that when someone's punching, like for example, someone's punching, like you don't want to make it look that, you want to make it look that.
Right.
Just feel
right.
the action going.
Right.
But the dynamics is tough because if you do it too much, it might look like it's either hyperextended or it's just like the bone is broken or something.
Right.
So being able to get the appropriate relations down into getting something and saying like, okay, this is right, and I think this is appropriate for what I'm going for. I think when I look at that and see like, wow, this is really cool. Just being able to have that and just understand that, but also the hands part of it is tough. I mean, a lot of that too, but also a lot of things I struggled with. Eyes was a little bit tough too.
Right.
But once I fully understood like part of the like the eyes, like it's round and such, and it's in a sphere motion.
Right.
I mean, it made it so much easier. Like,
is it actually like moving the eyes in the picture, so to speak? Like the eyes going in one direction, or is it just straight that you have problems with as far as drawing?
Usually it can be a certain direction because like for example, something like if if I'm looking at someone, it's gonna be like the eyes look like this, but if I'm looking like this way, like that way or something, the eyes are gonna look like very much more thin.
Okay. All right. So I see what you're saying. So it's and with the hands thing as well. Like if someone were to because you're talking about dynamics, if someone were to punch a wall and the wall were to crack, would you struggle to draw the hand actually punching the wall and you envisioning that action scene, or would you actually struggle to draw the crack, or both?
It depends because sometimes you may not necessarily want to draw the hand.
Right.
But the hand can be tough because you want to make it follow through.
Right.
Also, the action part of it is really important because you want to make it to where it's punching through and then the wall just like breaks through.
Right.
And you don't want to make it stiff. You want to make it like woo.
Right.
You're like a Ric Flair woo.
Right.
But
Ric Flair drawing Ric Flair punching a wall.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. But seeing that action come through, and being able to just really say like, wow, that's cool.
Right.
Something like that.
Right.
But it's really dependent on the piece because sometimes it's a little bit different for everything.
Right. What's the hardest piece you've had to draw? That you can remember.
Okay. There's two. Well, I'd say one. I could say the second most difficult was when I made the Pokemon artwork. I made 151 Pokemon in one piece of artwork.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's insane. 151?
Yes, it's all from the first generation.
How big was the template? Like, how big was the paper?
It was 22 by 17 inches.
So that's like here to here and maybe like this, right?
A little bit shorter.
Okay. But it's like basically like small poster board.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. How long did that take you?
Probably like 20, 25 hours.
Oh my God.
It was really tough too because
dude, that's incredible. 25 hours of drawing?
Yeah. It was tough too because I look at it like now I look at it, it's like, okay, I know I made mistakes on it. It's like it's okay because I was still very happy to draw it and I had a lot of fun doing it.
Right.
I wanted to try it because I mean, even if not everything was right, that's okay. But I really wanted to try it to be able to just really set the standard for what's to come in the future for me.
Right.
And I want that to be there for someone to look at it and just, even if it makes someone's day better, just something really cool saying, wow, this is awesome.
Right.
And, the community has been very strong in it. And I really like that. Like the community just came together and it's like, and it was going everywhere for a while. It was awesome.
Right.
Like when you have the community come together, it's like, this is just so cool. It's awesome to see when just like-minded people really appreciate the artworks when it comes down to that, stuff like that.
Right, absolutely, man. And I think that what would have made them appreciate it a little bit more and maybe motivated them a little bit more is if you said, it took me 25 hours to do this. Like, is that a small amount of time for a drawing, or is that like a lot?
No.
That's a lot, right?
Usually it depends on the piece, but average I may spend like 5-6 hours.
Okay, so that's like 5 times the amount of time that you usually would spend.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's insane. Was it over the course of like a week or something like that? Or
yeah, pretty much. It wasn't like one session.
That would be ridiculous.
Yeah, it's kind of like tattooing where you might do it in multiple sessions or something like that.
Right.
But then leading into the hardest thing I've ever drawn, I drew a couple months ago. I drew for the series finale of Attack on Titan. I've had this idea because I wanted to do a really, really detailed piece of Attack on Titan. Okay. That's one of my favorite shows I've watched. It's really, really
I've heard
cool.
of it before.
Yeah, the artwork is absolutely beautiful in it. I mean, the show is just so cool.
Right.
But besides from that, what I wanted to do is because the show was ending, the series finale was coming, so I was, sad but excited to see it finally come to the conclusion.
Right.
And I wanted to do this because, just being able to see like, okay, this is 151 artwork. And now I want to really set a higher standard for this.
Right.
And like to this day, I look back and it's like, without question, it's the best piece I've made up to this point.
Right.
And excuse me, but and I look at that too because it was, like I mentioned, the Pokemon one was 22 by 17.
Right.
This one was 22 by 51 inches.
Really?
So basically, that's triple the size. It's like this.
Really?
I'm having to be like Kevin Durant or something. My wingspan.
So how did that take you an equal amount of time?
No, that one actually took 35 hours.
Oh wow, that's incredible, dude.
Yes.
35 by like hour, like has there ever been like a time where it's like by like hour 12 or 13 you're like, no, maybe I should scratch this, or is it like by like hour 12 or 13 you're like, there's no way I can stop now,
A little bit of both. I think like I'm in my mind I'm saying like I really, really want to stop. But that's kind of like the devil on my shoulder saying, I really, you really got to stop now.
Right.
But then there's the angel saying like, you really got to keep going. You can do this. You know, like
Right.
you're so close,
Right.
but yet so far still. But you know, like still close in a certain sense.
Right.
And a lot of that was pushed through because like, if I didn't deliver in this piece, it'd feel like, oh, that's disappointing. You know, like.
Right.
And
like almost like you let yourself down in a sense.
yeah, pretty much. And I didn't want to necessarily do that because I wanted to set the new tone for like, okay, this 151 Pokemon artwork was incredible.
Right.
But I want this one to be more incredible.
Right.
And just being able to do like keep outdoing what I've done multiple times.
Right.
But yeah, that one like, I mean, it wasn't fun drawing it necessarily, but the end result was very fun.
Right.
And when it got down to it, I was done. I'm like, all right, we're done. Let's go. You know,
right.
like that.
Right.
I had to pretty much clear out the whole table and such. There was at times where I was drawing like this.
Right.
I was like going like this.
Right. like almost dancing, like you're like, or like wiping windows, so to speak.
Yeah, pretty much.
But that's cool, dude. Like people don't think about that, do they? Like when they look at art, they don't think about how long it took to actually develop that. Maybe like. Well, clothing, you find the same thing, like digital art. We were talking about digital art compared to the actual drawing. It's like both take a lot of time, but drawing especially, it's like your wrist might be hurting by like hour 6 or 7, but like you might want to keep going for a couple more hours in that session, you know, and people see the end result of it, but they don't think, oh, that took Michael 35 goddamn hours to do. Like,
you know, it's just crazy.
Just insane, right? So, but I'm mad respect to you for that.
Yeah, of course.
That
appreciate that so much.
Takes a lot, man. And I don't know if anyone tells you that, like, you know, that amount of time is like, even in like a podcast setting or editing, it's never taken me an hour or like 35 hours to figure it out, like in the sense, maybe that's how long it's taken to set up the whole thing entirely, you know?
Yeah, pretty
much. Just on one piece is crazy. Do you have some of your work, right? Your artwork? Or do you?
I brought something for you actually.
Oh really?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Something for you.
Stop it. Okay.
Well, maybe I can give it to you to the end if you want.
Yeah. I mean, if you want, yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to see if you had any artwork you wanted to show off or anything. But...
Yeah, I mean, I could show at the end if that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But yeah.
But I was gonna say, as far as what you're saying with expansion and everything, I think that creating that community, creating that like sense of, because we were talking about this, like people are so hyper competitive and like they want to outdo other people, but people like us, we think about how good can we get, just how much better can Michael this year. Oh, you're all good. You're all good. I remember last podcast, freaking Sean said that he finger fucked it.
What the heck, man? Oh my gosh.
I said something horrific. I was like, wow, that's ridiculous.
That's like way out of pocket.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He doesn't care at all. Yeah, so what I was saying was, as far as like the setup goes and the community, like people think, oh yeah, we have to compete with this other person about whether it be drawing or whether it be podcasting, but really I feel like me and you are like-minded in the sense of we're thinking about how we can be better than our previous selves. You know what I mean? Like how can the Jacob of 2024 be better than the Jacob of 2023? How can Michael this month be better than Michael in December? You know what I mean? So I think having that eliminates the competition of other people and brings in that let's build each other up. Let's make this a community. You know what I mean? Like you see me, I'm completely new to the trading card world, right? But there might be someone who's watching this like, that's really sick. Let me text that guy. Let me see what conventions he's talking about because I'd like to go. And I think that building that community and building this platform based on that community is really, really important. And so I like that you're like that mentally. Is you have that, you know, not only like let's build things together, but you know, how can I make myself better every day?
Yeah, exactly. And I think too, like even starting like the community online, of course, too. But I also think like starting like within the local community that you have, and just being able to meet people like within the town or city, whatever you want to say. But being able to just start within that and trying meeting people like within this community, starting within the town too, I think can just create so much more opportunity too. Like I look at like Springfield, Massachusetts, which, you know, is close to us, and I see the art community has came so much together. They've done murals, they've done mural for Dr. Seuss. Of course,
Right.
Dr. Seuss being from Springfield,
Right.
which is so incredible. Honestly,
Right.
is one of the coolest things. It's
That's sick. I actually didn't know that. That's interesting.
yeah. And Springfield, honestly, too, I think is a little bit of an underrated city. I mean, it has Dr. Seuss Museum. It has the Armory. It has, part of the major train tracks.
Right.
It has the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Right.
There's a lot of cool stuff with it too.
Right.
And I think with that too, I guess that was a little bit something more on the side. But I guess aside from that, well, I'm sorry, I had brain fart. I was trying to think of where the heck we were.
No,
I guess I'm distracted by Springfield.
You're good. This is what the podcast is for, right? Is to just get off track and just bullshit and talk and have fun and enjoy each other's company, right?
Yeah.
And promote what you do. But I was gonna say, as far as murals go, that's interesting that you say that. What do you think when you see that kind of art, outside of art, so to speak?
I think that
graffiti. That's the word I was thinking of. Yeah.
I think that I have a lot of respect for that kind of art because it takes a challenge to be able to even start it.
Right.
And I think that even though it doesn't matter how beautiful you make the piece, if you're illegally doing graffiti, it's still illegal. It doesn't matter how beautiful it is. But I think that when it gets to a point that someone might not know where the outlet is, and they would go express on that, and I mean it was illegal in a sense, but at least it's somewhere maybe like an abandoned place the majority of the time, and it's not like a public place, like for example like a school. It makes you feel like an abandoned building. And I guess even though it is slightly illegal, at least it's it's not something as severe. And I think that some people might think oh, they're so bad people, and part of it is I mean there should be a little bit of forgiveness there too, because I look at it too and it's yes, this it's not necessarily a great thing they're doing, but at the same time I look at it too and it's it takes a lot of talent to do this, and it's probably taking them a lot to learn to do this too. So I think being able to say oh, this person should deserve a chance, being able to look in that too and say maybe this person should give him a chance. And I think too, looking with that can absolutely change someone's life forever. And it's done so in so many examples too.
I think out of all the animals that are out in the world and all the criminals that are out in the world, graffiti artists are probably not the number one priority. You know what I mean? As far as we have to catch that guy. He won't stop making these beautiful painting or beautiful murals underneath bridges. I think that there is a nice cool beauty in that. You know what I mean? And it's very colorful. A lot of the murals that I've seen that or graffiti sites that I've seen, whether it be in Springfield or any other areas. I remember I went to New York a few years ago, and there was so much graffiti there. Boston has it as well. A lot of these big cities, I feel like an internal representation of how maybe a lot of the people in the city feel, especially if they're living in poverty. You know what I mean? Which the abandoned buildings thing that you brought up, a lot of the people who are living in those kinds of conditions, or for me in that sense, that's why I'm grateful. You know what I mean? I try to be grateful for everything that I have and everything that I've done, because I see people who are in that position, and it's that is an expression of how they may feel. To make something like an abandoned building that's shit beautiful, you know what I mean, look cool, and I like that a lot. So I think that even though, like you said, there's a criminality factor to it, I feel like that's very minor compared to, number one, the rest of the world, and number two, compared to the output, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree too.
It's cool to see. You drive by, I'm sure you got an eye for that sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. I look at it too. When I'm, if I'm driving by, sometimes I'll just I'll see the artwork and it's so beautiful, man. The talent that people have, and it's not maybe one person's working on it necessarily. I think multiple people are working on it, and when I think that you have multiple people coming together, and just being able, maybe even put differences aside, just disregarding things like race, religion, sex, background, etc. Just having these people come together and creating something beautiful, I think really speaks out. And at times, I think even with differences, these people may have differences, might be able to make better work, even though their differences might set them apart. But just being able to get focused inside of doing artwork, I think just at times can create a whole different volume of something beautiful.
Would you creatively, or have you rather creatively network, with other? I just hit the mic again. But have you ever creatively gotten with other people who do draw, or artists in general, and draw something together?
I've done it a handful of times. I've been looking into trying doing it a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah, so a little bit into leading into the trading card aspect of it. A little bit what I like to do also is I like to trade artwork. So I like to trade artwork for like cards and such.
Okay.
And that's how I've been able to build up my capital. Starting, I started out from scratch. I started with no cards and
Right.
such, so I built it up from artwork.
Right.
And with that, I've been able to build up something really amazing, something inspiring.
So trading your artwork in for cards?
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it's very, very difficult because it's a very, very niche thing. It's like it's very specific towards the people who are going to want to do that.
Right.
However, it's always about a searching game.
Right.
And I think too that if you eventually get really good and make your art demanding,
right.
because it's so darn good, and someone's like, I want that. I think being able to build yourself up in that way can really, really speak for itself and just create something better than you would have ever expected.
Right. Absolutely. And that's why I was wondering, because some people are like lone wolves in that sense. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh no, I'm way better with like working by myself and drawing by myself, trading cards by myself, like doing that by myself. But like you said, having that community, and you could potentially create better artwork, not better than what you're doing now, but better artwork than you thought with other people, or at least get ideas from them, right? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, well, Michael, maybe we should do it this way, and they might teach you something, or you might say to them, oh, maybe we should do it that way. That was what we were talking about on the ride here. It's like, having yourself exposed to the people who are levels ahead of you will help you get to those levels. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's completely, that's permanent. There's no real way of elevating your game without being exposed to people whose games are already elevated, so mm-hmm. to speak. So I think that for you, in that case, talk about being the best at your craft, you are very, very good. But like you said too, and you said this, it's like, I don't meet people who are better than me, and I feel like I'm at the top, and I feel like I'm the best, which what does that even mean? But you feel like you're the best. It's like one of those things where you're not going to have any sense of wanting to get better, wanting mm-hmm. to improve. So I like that about you a lot. And yeah. I think that constant development is going to push you forward, man. I think you're going to go to big places with this.
Seriously. I appreciate that.
Seriously.
And I think about that too. Like example I was thinking before about like wrestling is about how Dominic Mysterio in the WWE, of course his father is Rey Mysterio. Now he has to fill some big shoes
right
in the world. And it's like he's in this world against like so many other talented wrestlers when he's like, very young too.
Right.
And I think an example of that because like he's surrounded by so much talent and right. so much people that are better than him.
Right.
But I think that veteran experience is something really, really good because it surrounds you by people and motivates you to really want to get something more out of it. Not only that, and it can really bring you places that you wouldn't have expected to really reach.
Right. Right. And for a lot of people who are in those fields, it's kind of overwhelming, right? Mm-hmm. To have someone who is that far ahead of you or people that are that far ahead of you or people who have a lot of talent. And you can look at it as overwhelming and be like, oh, I don't know if this is for me and maybe leave. Mm-hmm. Or you can look at it as an opportunity. You're like, okay, so what can I learn from this person? Yep. I guarantee you do the latter, man, your game starts to get really good. And then people start asking you questions and you start helping them. Mm-hmm. So I know I said I wouldn't ask this question on the ride here, mm-hmm. but I'm going to ask it in the most contextual sense possible, so to speak.
Okay.
For you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I know it's hard. I know it's hard to say that, but mm-hmm. like, where do you see yourself going with this?
Okay. It's really a difficult question because it's honestly uncertain where it's going to take you in 5 years because anything can happen in those 5 years. And I think having a little bit of gratitude within yourself, being able to, make it this far is something that should be taken away
right.
most of the time. But aside from that, I kind of see myself being able to network with more people, maybe even making an original story or something.
Right.
I see myself inspiring more people, keep building up more capital in the collecting space.
Right.
Maybe even being able to meet bigger and better people in the space.
Right.
Maybe even doing something different in the space, changing the space in a sense.
Right.
Being able to be, a positive impact in the world where maybe someone doesn't necessarily have that outlet to right. where they can see like, oh, I don't know, my life is in such despair right now. It's really bad. Mm-hmm. And they can look at something like this, for example, or anything for that matter, and look at it and say, okay, I can look at this and I want to look at this now and say, I can do better in my life because this person is showing me I can do better in my life. So I guess ultimately where I see myself is keep doing similar things, keep inspiring more people, getting better at the craft, being able to meet more people, um, being able to pursue something more, create something larger than I have right now, maybe even explore new routes of things, like maybe even something like music, something like aside from art and collecting, maybe even just anything. I think if being open to more opportunity can create something you wouldn't expect. And even if if you try something like once or twice and you don't like it, that's okay because at least you tried it and you don't like it necessarily.
Right.
But yeah, it's a really difficult question, but if I had to answer it, that's probably the best way I could answer it if possible.
Right. No, elevating your game in every way possible, like you said. So I like that because some people, I don't know, it's just like you have to have, I feel like, some sort of vision, right? And like you said, being grateful for where we are now, absolutely. I think that gratitude actually helps push us forward, especially with the support from other people. Like I was talking about with the podcast, like you were talking about with your art, where that picture that picture that took you 25 hours to draw really took off. That support really reinvigorated your reason why, because some people need that. If they're pursuing their passionate endeavors, as my good friend Nate would say, if they're pursuing their passionate endeavors, they would want that. They want to be able to like have that support, have that feedback, whether it's good or bad, so that way they have a direction that they can go and they feel motivated to do it. So I'm very happy about that. I was gonna say we're gonna wrap this up, but I was gonna ask you, do you have any art you want to show? I know you said you had art for me, but I don't want to be selfish and be like at the end of the podcast, thank God I'm getting a gift, like, or anything like that. But,
yeah, I can show you. I got something.
All right. It's in that bag right there, right?
Yeah, it is.
That bag. We have to get off camera. Well, he has to get off camera real quick.
Yeah, I'm gonna be off camera for a second.
Maybe you know what? We should be able to. One day we can like levitate it. Maybe, I don't know. That'd be cool.
Maybe do something.
There's gonna be something like technology-wise in the future like that, where they're already starting to put chips in people's brains.
Yes.
They're already starting with that. I mean, we're gonna have powers by 2040. I'm really relying on that, you guys. To have like a superpower by 2040. Like eventually like fly out of a Stop and Shop or something like that.
Well, I gotta close this so nothing falls out. But yes, I studied from the last podcast. I know you like Batman and stuff. Talking from Nate.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, here you go.
Oh, that's sick, dude.
There's a little Batman I made for you.
That is so sick, you guys. I gotta show. I'm gonna show this on camera, you guys.
Yeah.
Look, I feel like I could be Batman, right? That is so fucking sick, dude. Look, I appreciate it.
I'm Batman.
Dude, this is. I gotta frame this. Because this is the first cool gift I've gotten from a person on the podcast.
Yeah.
And this goes to show. I mean, like the way that you're able to draw lines. Like I said, I don't know if people can see it, so I'll get a little closer. The way that you're able to draw lines is excellent, man. Like the curves, the edges. I know I'm not using any of the right terminology. Keep in mind, I don't draw.
That's all right.
This is so cool. Like this guy's right here. This is the reason why you got to follow my man Michael, because this stuff can't be replicated. It takes a real expert and person who's advanced to do this, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
so
of course, man. There you go.
Is there anything else you want to like promote, talk about, anything upcoming that you're doing?
I mean, it's difficult because the thing is, I usually don't like to talk about what I'm doing too much. I like to keep a little bit of secretive.
I see you.
But I do talk about something sometimes. You might find this weird, right? But I learned this from Steve-O. Why would I learn something from Steve-O, right?
Right.
He literally has like destroyed his body.
Yeah.
Why would I take any advice from someone who destroyed his body, right?
Right.
But he said under deliver and overperform. And I really took that to a personal level and thinking that, okay, maybe if I don't speak about it too much,
right,
then I really go do it and do it crazy. Right. I think that what makes the shock factor the most pop out.
Right.
Really about that. But one thing I'm going to keep on working on, just being able to meet more conventions. I'm happy to talk to anyone who wants to reach out to me too. We can chat, anything like that. I'm also going to be working on some really, really detailed artwork soon.
Right.
I've been inspired by one of my favorite comic artists who does really detailed drawings. So
Okay.
I'm going to try doing for myself and doing some more detailed drawings. Now I just keep doing more artworks, maybe make some more reels to an Instagram.
Right.
You guys are welcome to send in requests too if you want me to draw something specific. But yeah, I really see a lot coming for the time soon, and I really appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And all of his social medias will be, or one of his social media. I don't know why I said all. One of his social medias, his social media will be linked in the description below, so you'll be able to contact him if you are interested in the conventions or the card trading. You already know he has all the answers. And as far, like I said, as the drawing goes, I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate you for being on this podcast in general, man.
Yeah, of course, man. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Honestly,
I always fist bump people. I know I already did it. Ow, Jesus! Oh, it's like that fist. Have you ever done two fists for like for a drawing?
Actually, I haven't yet.
That would be cool, right?
That'd
or like
cool.
You know how like someone catches a fist, right, and it makes like that. You know what I'm talking about? Like it cracks the ground or something.
Yes,
like
I've seen that before. It's so sick.
That's what I imagine with anime. Right. That's what I imagine with anime. All right. Well, us dorks will get off the podcast. All right. We got you.
All right.
We hear you guys. But yes, thank you for being on.
Yeah, thanks, man.